there, and welcome to a fresh episode of the program, Last Week in Nigeria. On this program, we'll get to bring you stories that were reported by the national dailies back home in Nigeria in the course of the previous week. My name is Emmanuel Oriowo. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles using at Last Week in Nigeria. You log on to our website, www.lastweekinnigeria.com. Don't forget to also subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, share, comment, and of course turn on the notification button to have our subsequent episodes on this program. Let's begin this way as we look at stories making the headline concerning our nation, Nigeria, in dire need of help. Last week in Nigeria, the Daily Independent had this particular story. Activist Slam FG states OPS for rejecting 250,000 naira minimum wage. Still from the same newspaper last week in Nigeria, your sacrifice won't be in vain. We're speaking here. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, giving his word of hope to Nigerians. Also from last week in Nigeria, we had this one from the This Day newspaper. In Salah message, Tinubu says Nigerian sacrifice expectations will not come to naught. We also had this one by the Sunday Leadership newspaper. Edo Kabir, your expectations won't be in vain, Tinubu assures Nigerians. And that went on and on by so many papers as reported last week in Nigeria. Nigeria's 289 delegation to ILO confab stirs fresh outcry. That's the way the Daily Trust newspaper captioned it last week in Nigeria. Restructuring, why northern elements are angry, sources. That's the way the Sunday Telegraph puts it. Sunday Punch newspaper brought us this particular one. Festivities may fuel cholera as cases spread to 30 states. That was the way it was captioned by the Punch newspaper last week in Nigeria. And of course, they're talking about other issues concerning the nation. FG to partake in G7 energy projects. That's the way the Metric newspaper puts it above the nameplate of the newspaper. Below the nameplate, we have this banner headline that says, corruption scandal hits police constables recruitment. For the Sunday Daily Times, we had this one, police PSC trades blame over recruitment list of new constables. Now back to River State crisis. WIKE FUBARA shift battleground to local government secretariat. Also in the course of last week, we saw the removal of the local government chairman in River State based on the fact that the tenure expired. And we also saw the governor, FUBARA, swearing in 23 new caretaker chairmen. River State happens to be in the eyes of storm in recent times. Power tussle, you want to call it? Supremacy, whatever you put it. Drop your comments at the comment section. Let's have the conversation going. River State is in Nigeria. And of course, it's part of us. We hope that the presidency will bring his might into the feud between the former governor of River State, talking about Barrister Nyesom Wike, and of course, Siminalayi Fubara, who is the current sitting governor in River State. Unfortunately, that took some youth to the local government secretariats where they asked those local government chairmen to leave by force. The most interesting part of it is that it was on a Tuesday and the government declared a public holiday to celebrate the Eid al-Kabir. But we still have some chairmen who came to office on a public holiday. And the youth said, hey, you need to leave. That brought about fisticuffs, the police swinging into action, taking over virtually all the streets of River State in various local governments. But well, the governor said he has the power to bring in new caretaker chairmen based on the expiration of the tenure of the ones who just left office. Intrigues, you want to call it. Stop this impunity, insensitivity, shamelessness. That's the way Peter Obi puts it, as Peter Obi kicks against new presidential jets. First newspaper has this one. And it's very interesting that almost all the newspapers had that Peter Obi in the news as a blast federal government over the purchase of new presidential aircraft. The Punch newspaper had this one. Cholera spread. Fear of school outbreak rises as pupils resume after the Eid al-Kabir celebration. And now let's take a trip to Kano State, where we have the Nation newspaper putting it this way. Emir crisis. Presidency dismisses Kwankwaso's Kano alarm. Wow. Do we have two emirs in Kano? I leave that to you to conclude. The Vanguard newspaper reported last week, Nigerians struggle as high drug prices fuel health crisis. You recall that some few months ago, we talked about The situation in Nigeria saying that it's a bad time to fall ill in Nigeria. It's still on. Don't try to fall sick if you're back home in Nigeria, or if you have siblings and folks are back home in Nigeria. Try to encourage them to stay strong, not to fall ill, because the prices of medicals, it's alarming. The Daily Trust newspaper had this one: lead by example, Nigerians reply to Tinubu. Could there be an outrage there? But well, the New Telegraph has this one: Salah spending triggers Naira scarcity nationwide. The Nigerian News Direct has this one: anxiety as Rivers government issues ultimatum to local governments to vacate councils. Just like I told you earlier, this was just the developing angle of the stories when it started last week in Nigeria, earlier in the week. And the Guardian newspaper had this one: anxiety as 200% hike, scarcity hits hospitals, essential drug markets. Leadership newspaper had this one: inadequate infrastructure, Nigeria fails to stop 1.4 trillion naira loss to medical tourism. People still fly out for medical care, since we don't have the best of medical services back home in Nigeria. The Matrix newspaper also reported last week concerning the crisis going on in Rivers State, and it was captioned this way: despite the fact that we still see the developing stories and the way things are right now in Rivers State. But last week in Nigeria, the Matrix newspaper had this one. It says, FUBARA versus local government chairman, Rivers crisis turns ugly. We all saw that on the streets of Rivers State, how youth took over the streets in protest of tenure expiration of the local government chairman. Before we saw the governor of the state stepping into his own action as the #1 chief security officer of the state to say, hey, I have the powers to bring in the new caretaker chairman. And he did what? He sworn in 23 of them, and now we're beginning to fold our arms to see how the events of the things will turn. Because some were even calling for state of emergency in Rivers State. And we all know the import if there's a state of emergency in Rivers State. It will not be a good one for the people of Rivers. And the fallout of the protest that we saw in Rivers led to the way the Punch newspaper captioned this particular story, saying that Rivers crisis, cop killed as youth dislodge pro-WIKE local government chairman. We have it this way from the Leadership newspaper: FUBARA council chairman flex muscles over tenure expiration. All of that went down last week in Nigeria, as reported by national dailies. And we also saw how the governor had a swearing-in ceremony for the 23 caretaker local government chairman in Rivers State. Also last week in Nigeria, a video popped up online talking about what happened to one of Nigeria's finest broadcaster, who is also a video blogger, saying that she needs to be reported. And how? What we saw on the floor of the Green Chair Chambers was a Kogi State lawmaker reporting Adeola Fayehun, saying she did something concerning what they earned, and that video trended like wildfire. And he now said, if the National Assembly refused to take up Adeola Fayehun, he, in his own capacity as a lawmaker of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, will be taking her up for that kind of allegation of what is their take home. Let's take a listen to the excerpts of what the man said, quoting Adeola Fayehun.
I, a member of this house, collect basic salary of 2.5 per month, furniture allowance 7.5 million per month, newspaper allowance 1.2 million per month, wardrobe allowance 621,000 per month, research allowance 248,000 per month, accommodation allowance 4.9 million per month, utility allowance 828,000 per month, personal assistant allowance 621,000 per month.
It's still last week in Nigeria. The intrigues in Nigeria happens to be unlimited, because we get to see stories back to back unfolding from different angles. Now the man is saying he's going to take it up with Adeola, who happens to be a fellow colleague. I'm with you, my dear sister. Let's see how this pans out, because we're doing our job as media officers. And if we have our information, should we disclose the source? If we have it and we're authoritative about it, we'll spew it. It's still last week in Nigeria, where you have the opportunity to get all the stories that were reported like national dailies last week in Nigeria. And don't forget, it pays to advertise your goods and services on this show. Put your money where your mouth is and advertise your goods and services to reach the globe in one breath. Don't forget, you can follow us on all our socials using @LastWeekInNigeria, which is the handle, on all social media platforms, on TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, go to our website, www.lastweekinnigeria.com. Our YouTube channel is Last Week Nigeria TV. And now let's go to some sporting gist for you. It is no more news that the Super Eagles' former coach, Finidi George, resigned. What is news now is the fact that himself and Victor Osimhen have a feud going on, and net citizens are also reacting, saying Victor shouldn't have gone that far. But Victor said he lied about him. He also cited the position of Ekong, who is supposed to be Nigeria's finest defender, who were all on the seat, including Boniface. They were all on the bench. They were not used for the match that brought Nigeria to this level. You recall we had a poor outing with South Africa and Benin Republic. So all of this led to the resignation of Finidi George, the former Super Eagles coach, and we are hoping to get a foreign technical advisor, or perhaps they'll look inward again and call on the likes of Emmanuel Amunike that people are already clamoring for. But guess what? That poor performance took us downward the FIFA ranking to 38th position, 8 steps backward. So you can understand why tongues are wagging, why Nigerians are raging that, hey, that was a poor outing by Finidi George. Following the feud that happened between Finidi George and Victor Osimhen, the NFF came up with a statement saying there was no ban on Victor Osimhen over the feud that is ongoing. They said it was just a pocket of rumors that people are flying around, that there was no ban on Victor Osimhen for any reason, that they understand that they're having disagreements with the former coach of the Super Eagles, but no ban is being orchestrated from their end. Talking about the NFF, the glass house in Nigeria. On behalf of all the entire crew here, my name is Emmanuel Oriowo, saying a big thank you to you. Kindly join me next week for the fresh episode of the program at Last Week in Nigeria. Don't forget to use all our handles at Last Week in Nigeria on all our social media platforms, rather. On TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and our website, www.lastweekinnigeria.com. Turn on the notification bell on our YouTube channel. Like, share, subscribe, and you'll be glad you did. Don't forget, put your money where your mouth is. Advertise your goods and services on this show to reach the globe in one breath. Continue to follow us. Let's do this together again next week. Once again, on behalf of everyone here, bye for now.